All right. Welcome back. This is the couple months you missed. We haven't been doing this as often. There's just too much to talk about right now, though. I don't even have something concrete to talk about because I feel like I could talk about 20 things right now. So I'm probably going to let Todd start us off. But I know we could talk about the possible World War III. This is kind of like the end of the year, too. So these are things like, all right, what happened this year or what happens or gonna happen in the year coming. But a possible World War III, which is pretty much the Ukraine-Russia fiasco, as well as the Middle East, Israel, Hamas, whole Middle East fiasco, and then other possible big fiascos like China, Taiwan, and all of that. We could talk about AI, which has just been getting wild. Super impressive what it does, but also super scary. And then what happened at OpenAI, because that was nuts. And did that have to relate to the possibilities of AI? Who knows? Then we could talk about the economy. We could talk about Elon Musk, because he's always interesting to talk about. We could talk about really anything and everything. So, Todd, what do you want to start us off with?
I think the thing that over the past like 6 months and really throughout this year that has been crazy to me is that I feel like there the economy is simultaneously the best it's ever been and the worst it's ever been all at the same time. And it's like to see all these people on Twitter and on the news being like, look at these economic indicators and like consumer spending or like this, that, or the other, like unemployment or job growth and all this stuff. And then you see people posting about how like, we've got good jobs and we're living paycheck to paycheck and we can't afford groceries or we can barely afford groceries. And like, I don't know, it's just this weird thing. And I do think that it's something that the Biden administration has obviously a vested interest in people thinking the economy is good, but at the same time, like it's hard to convince people that you feel like or they know they've got, you know, less disposable income than ever that like, hey, everything's going great. And it's like, because so often people vote based on their economic conditions and all this. And I think it's going to be a big factor. And like, I don't know, because like have you experienced this with people that are like, I've never been doing better, and then you like hear other people and they're like, I've never been struggling more, and it's like, it's not like they lost their job or like had a pay cut. It's just everything's the same, but it's just life is like 10 times harder for them now.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have seen that, and I think it could be due to a couple reasons. So one, I think the wealth is just a lot more concentrated now, and there's still 10% of people who are doing really well and doing even better than they ever were.
Yeah,
And I guess numerically, that equates to more than the 90% of people who are doing worse. So that makes the
yeah,
metrics like look good, but there's still 90% of people who are doing worse. Um, as well as the cost of living is just higher. So like your money doesn't go as far, which I think relates to what I was gonna say next is I think our metrics are a little bit um maybe dated, maybe they're biased on purpose or whatever, but I don't think our metrics always really say how everything's doing. One example that comes to mind, and I'm sure there's more that I just don't know offhand or as well, but people say like the unemployment rate is XYZ and that's not that bad. But people then don't mention that the amount of people who have two, three, four jobs is at an
yeah,
all-time high. And that
yeah,
helps the like you need two jobs in a lot of careers to be able to live well. And
yeah,
that's not really counted. So people go, oh, these people have jobs, but yeah, that person actually needs two jobs, or this person's actually counting as four, and all of that. So I think those skew everything. And I definitely do see what you've been seeing. I also think it's going to catch up to us. It seems at some point where a few wealthy people aren't going to be doing as well as they ever were, if unless they change their eggs soon or whatever. Because there
yeah.
is a probably a recession that's going to expedite pretty soon.
I feel like people have been calling for a recession for the past like 18 months. And it's just like the recession that just like hasn't happened, or it's a recession that is hitting part of the country and not the other. And And I don't know, but it just seems like everything is very, very like out of whack. And it's like it just makes me feel like uneasy almost because it just feels like it's I don't know, it just feels like inconsistent. It's like, when it's like everything's saying one thing, but it feels different. And it's like, I don't know if I should be looking at the numbers or listening to people or like trusting my gut or like what, because like, we're doing fine, we're doing good, but it's like, that could all change very quickly depending on how the economy goes. Things can change overnight. So I think it's kind of crazy, but I do think that, this is going to have a big impact leading into 2024. And I think you're already seeing it with like, to just sort of pivot into upcoming like elections, it's nuts because everyone sort of assumes like there's no way Donald Trump could win in 2024. And it's like, I don't know, man. Like some of these polls, and I know polls have been very inconsistent, but it's like, look, if we're all looking at the same polls, it's the only thing we can look at. And like, you know, they do these state by state analyses, which is the only way to do it since that's how we elect presidents. And like Donald Trump's winning by pretty large margins in like the main swing states. I think all but Wisconsin, at least from the last numbers I saw. And I feel like you've got many people in the Democratic Party that are saying like, "Hey, we need someone else," but it's just like, who do you go to? Like, they put themselves in a rock and a hard spot because I don't think Kamala Harris would be an effective replacement for Joe Biden. They put themselves in a weird political position if they get rid of Joe Biden, but don't embrace Harris as a candidate because of the optics of it. And at the same time, it's like she's obviously not very popular and has not instilled a lot of confidence in the American public. So it's like, what do you do? And it's like, like the idea of Trump winning again in 24 is like insane to me. It would be crazy because you'd be automatic lame duck. People would go absolutely ballistic. And I do think it would not be great for the country. Like it's like that would be freaking wild. Like I
Yeah.
just don't even know.
I feel like I haven't even thought about the election too much. I think partly because I feel like there's way too much that can happen now until then
Oh,
that
absolutely.
that can skew it, which maybe part of that's going to be in Biden's decisions, or maybe something's not in his decision. But I feel like the wars going on right now are definitely going to affect a lot of decisions. I think the economy is going to affect a lot of people's decisions, and then honestly, like I feel like the likelihood goes up every day. No offense of Biden dying, because like he's
Well,
too
I mean,
he's
it's the same for Trump too. Both of these
both of
geezers
them
are,
can yeah
they're
both
every day they're closer to death. And that's
yeah
just
because
like,
they're it's not like they're healthy people, and there is still no one talks about it, but there's still COVID. Uh, like you know what I mean? It still
yeah,
does
yeah, yeah.
exist. Plus the flu. Like COVID might not be deadly for a healthy average person who's in normal weight, but it's still dangerous for old people who have other
Yeah,
ailments going on,
absolutely.
which is Biden and Trump. So you still have that. Uh, so they could both pass. I still don't really think Biden's going to run again. People think it might be Michelle Obama. Some people think Newsom. So that could change things a lot. Then, like, dude, aliens are probably coming sooner rather than later, which, like, that's going to change everything. Then,
You know,
and then, what's it called? Um, oh, what was the next thing I was gonna say? I had another thing. Not aliens, almost it was probably just as crazy, but there's a lot of wild things that can happen that can just change everything.
yeah, and I think the Michelle Obama angle, I think that is the one swap out that I think could work. Like
Mm,
I think they could truly, it's like keep Kamala Harris at VP, swap in Michelle Obama in the presidency. I think everyone could stomach that. And like if they swapped in Gavin Newsom and basically overstepped Kamala Harris with Gavin Newsom, like that's gonna blow up in their face. Like that's not
yeah,
gonna look good. And that guy is so slimy and snaky anyways. Like, I don't know. Like the whole thing is just they've it's a very interesting sort of political position they put themselves in, and it's like I think if nothing else, I'm just interested to see how it plays out because
hmm
it's like I don't know, it's always been something I've followed as interesting, and it's like there just are no good options here. And like it's wild enough that Trump could literally, there is a scenario in which Trump could be like in a jail cell and elected president of the United States. Like that is within the realm of possibility,
That
which
makes the
is
most sense of
insane.
happening with how things are these days, to be honest.
No, I know. Well, and it's like, if we're just gonna all agree that we're living in a simulation, that would be a pretty cool plot twist that our robot overlords throw into our weak little human brains just to
e-
see what happens. But
exactly.
well, and it's just also wild because like, you mentioned these wars, and it is so funny about, and it's such like a commentary on the government media, that sort of military complex and all this. It's like, you know, you ask people about a war now, everyone's gonna be like, oh, what's going on in Israel? And it's like, oh, you do remember about Ukraine, right? And everyone's like, oh, that old thing. Like,
Yeah.
it's like
Well,
people have just completely moved on from that.
there's also the 40 other wars going on right now that are just like a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of wars going on with a lot of also potential wars like that have been just brewing. And honestly, I feel like I'm aware of them, maybe more too when I'm not on the spot, but like I can't even think of a lot of them right now. But almost there's like things going on in every single part of the world. South
Yeah.
America, uh, Eastern Europe, Asia, everywhere. And they all could brew and turn into something huge at the same time.
Speaking of South America, did you follow this the election of this crazy dude in Argentina?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
I think that's going to be very interesting to see what happens. There was this great video of him going through, and it was like a whiteboard with all like the government departments, like with little like pieces of paper, and he's just going through and being like, Department of Education, afuera, which means like gone, and he's just like ripping them off the wall, and it's like afuera, afuera,
he's an
afuera, and he's
anarchist,
like,
right?
well, he's like a anarcho-capitalist, which
Yeah,
is like libertarian-esque, and apparently he just converted to Judaism, I heard,
right.
potentially, which is interesting. It was interesting on two fronts, because one, like Judaism typically, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong as the expert on this, but like y'all aren't big on converting people. Like that's not sort of, I mean, like sure you let it happen, but for the most part, like it's not like Christianity or Islam where like part of the goal is like
Yeah, no.
proselytizing and bringing more people in. Like,
The person, from what I understand, the person has to just want to become Jewish. It can't be something that they're like told to do or like
yeah,
convinced to do. So like, if a male, if I was going out with a Christian girl and I wanted to get married, I'm not supposed to tell her like, hey, I want my kids to be Jewish, and in order for them to be Jewish, you need to be Jewish. So please convert and we can do that. That won't be like legit. She has to kind of like
you want
know
to
I
sort of
want to
like
do
choose
this.
to, yeah,
Yeah. Which
interesting. But I think
it
it's, yeah,
it reminds me. This is just a little off topic, but like similar rule in Judaism is on Shabbat. You know how you're not supposed to use lights. So like technically you're not supposed to use lights, but if a Gentile turns the lights on for you, it's okay. So if you want, but you can't ask them to turn the lights on for you. So what some people do is it'll be Shabbat, and you'll like go up to a Gentile and be like, explain to them the rule about how on Shabbat you can't turn lights on, and you'll be like, and it's dark at my house, and
yeah.
and you wait for them
It's
to be
so
like, oh,
dark.
I'll turn the lights on.
Yeah, like I keep bumping into walls and tripping over things. If
Yeah,
only a nice Gentile would help me. Well, it's funny.
rules.
I remember yeah.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, I talked to someone once. They went to a Jewish hospital to like visit someone on Saturday, and they're like, I got in this elevator and it stopped on every floor, and it's like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's in
because you
Sabbath
can't
mode.
press the
It's like
buttons.
you don't have to press the button, so it just
Yeah.
stops on the floor, opens, next floor opens, and they're like, I had no idea what was going on. I'm like, yeah, you got in the wrong elevator.
And that reminds me, this will be a little segue of I feel like there's just like the metrics of the economy, there's so many rules and things that we do from 50, 60, 100, thousands of years ago that just don't seem too relevant anymore,
Yeah,
especially at like this day and age. Things have changed so much in the last 10 years, and they're going to change so much more. it's weird and interesting to me that there's not more people who are trying to go out with the old and in with the new. And I think case in point, this will be a segue, and I don't want to talk about this, I think, too much because it's too big a topic and I'm too likely to just say the wrong thing even if I don't mean it. But the whole battle in the Middle East is about these disputes that go back at the very least 70 years ago from when this land was chosen, but as far back as 2,000, 3,000 years ago, of
Yep.
like when the scripture that all these people are going by and arguing over like first started, whatever. But like, why do we just still hold these things so sacred when it's like I don't know. It's just a new time and age. Like, why don't we have new rules, new currency? I forgot to talk about Bitcoin, but like, the time for us to have maybe Bitcoin, so we have digital currency. It's a time. This is a little off topic, but I'm just rambling right now. Of like, why are fucking banks? You can't transfer money on Saturdays and Sundays. That doesn't make sense anymore. Everything's digital. Why don't we just have things 24/7? Why are like there's all these rules that just don't make sense, but because we've been doing them for 50 years, we just keep them, or 100 years. I don't get it. It's I feel like it's time to change, and I think AI coming out in 2024, I'm putting everything all into this last thing, is is gonna like kind of force us to expedite a lot of these changes because like it's there's going to be a lot of unemployment. There's going to be a lot of people who don't need to work, but things are good right now. There's enough
Yeah.
food, there's enough money for everyone to be able to be good. We just got to figure out a new way of doing things.
So you threw a lot out there, and I think an overriding sort of theme of all this is something that I've thought about a lot, which is the idea that, we are the most advanced society, just as humanity, that has ever lived on the globe, as far as we know.
Mm-hmm.
And all evidence points to that, but like we're still essentially cavemen. Like sure, we're much more evolved than we used to be, and much more advanced, but it was, 200 years ago, 300 years ago is a blink of an eye in terms of like history and certainly the universe. And 300 years ago, people were murdering each other. Wars were completely different and brutal. Like you would just kill everyone. Like it's just like, but now we sort of have this veneer of civilization that just sort of is like skim coated over all of us. But we're like a hair away from descending into total chaos if things sort of go off the rails. And it's like, and that's, I think that's where a lot of these like conflicts come from, because it's like we simultaneously have these like old world beliefs and old world beefs like it's going on in the Middle East, but now it's all fought with like modern weaponry and trying to have like modern sensibilities. Like,
Mm-hmm.
to your point, the conflict in the Middle East and Israel, Palestine, and all this. I mean, it at least certainly goes back until the conflict of like, whether you believe it or not, factually, the David and Goliath story. It was the Philistines or are sort of were sort of the those sort of like the Palestinians, I think, is from what I've read. And like David was obviously Jewish. And like this is a conflict that has been going on for thousands and thousands of years. And everyone still acts like that happened 2 weeks ago. And
Mm-hmm.
like, and it's, I don't know, it's just so, it is crazy how advanced we are, but simultaneously unadvanced we are, and hold on to the past. And I do think that I don't think a complete rejection and forgetting of the past is the right thing to do, because I think then you give up a lot of things. But at the same time, I do feel like we have evolved technologically and societally, but we still hold on to a lot of things that are sort of ancient. And I don't know if it's on a net balance. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing or somewhere in between, but it is interesting. I do think, and to sort of pick up your point about AI and with Sam Altman, apparently like the reason that the board initially ousted him is because they felt he wasn't taking seriously enough the threat that like the advances they were making could challenge like and like threaten humanity. And
Yeah.
then they basically just replaced the board and brought him back. And it's like, I don't know who to believe. I'm sure all this stuff is super secret and like, who knows? But like, I feel like 2024 could be like, we're going to hit some sort of inflection point with AI where it's like, oh shit, like here we go.
Well,
Like
I think
where,
that's AGI, and it, from a lot of
Yeah,
people's opinion, it seems like they hit AGI and they just don't know, or know that it's coming very, very, very soon, and
yeah.
don't know how to handle it when it happens. I think my main thing is, though, I'm happy that we hit AGI before China, is the most important thing. And I don't know, that's just going to be super interesting when it happens, because that's going to expedite unemployment, I think, or that's going to change shit really quickly.
Well, and I've always thought, and I might have even brought this up past times we spoke about AI, but I do think, and I'm a pretty laissez-faire kind of guy. I think the government should sort of mind its business most of the time. But given the disruption that AI is likely to have, I do think that, if there's a company that employs 10,000 people and they're going to be able to lay off 5,000 people because of advancements in AI, like, I feel like that company should have to like pay some sort of tax in perpetuity for the people that are replaced by AI that then goes to fund some sort of universal basic income, or jobs retraining programs or social services or something. Because the fact of the matter is everyone can have their cool AI toys and factories and all this stuff, but like, if three-quarters of the people in the world are unemployed, those three-quarters of the population are going to come and take from the quarter that still has the stuff. Like,
Yeah,
there will,
class
like,
wars.
you can't just destroy a vast majority of people's complete, lives and livelihoods and expect them to just be like, yeah, well, guess that's that. And
Yeah,
like, especially in America where people got guns, like, you
yeah,
might
but
be able to get away with that. And
if you
yeah,
have robots that can fight, you can beat the
and
people with guns. It's gonna get interesting. That's the thing.
God, and I didn't read it. I just saw a headline on it, and I should read on this maybe before commenting. But apparently, the U.S. military is getting very close to allowing AI to make kill decisions,
Yeah, I saw
which
that.
is going to be like, I don't like that. I just don't like that. Like, it
Yeah,
seems like a bad idea. It seems like
it's
a really, really bad idea.
it's scary, but the whole thing is, like, if you don't do it first, someone else is gonna do it. So getting
I mean,
control of it, I
well,
think.
here's
I
what I
don't know.
know, that will eventually happen, and maybe like, I don't know, because it'll be interesting to think about like, what will the new rules of war be? And rules of war has always been sort of a silly thing because it's like war is hell, but
Yeah,
it's like, maybe it's something where robots can freely choose to kill other robots in battle, but have to get some sort of human,
approval.
clearance to be lighten up, human beings. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Well, that
that
better
only
be in the
works if everyone
algorithm.
abides by it,
That better be in the
you
algorithm,
know?
because otherwise they're gonna kill everyone.
Well, and it's interesting because the idea of, robotic warriors that are killing humans and not just other robots sort of goes against, one of the key tenets of Isaac Asimov's three laws of robotics.
Mhm.
Do no harm to humans, don't, always listen to humans unless listening to him would make you violate either the first two rules or whatever they are. But it's like this idea that we might hard code robots to be like, no, it's okay for you to kill people. And it's like, I don't like that. I don't know where that's gonna go. Like, it makes
Yeah.
me nervous. It
We'll
makes me
we'll
real
pro
nervous.
we'll probably know soon enough. But I think that is a dope week, month, whatever that we missed. Let's definitely aim to do this at least one more time before the new year.
Yes,
Who
sir.
knows? A lot of what we talked about might already happen, but it was great to catch up. I hope
Absolutely.
the people who listen enjoyed too, and maybe we'll get some guests on the next time too to see some other views. But thank you,
That's
Todd.
great.
You got any closing thoughts?
No, that's it. Have happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.